The 9 Years podcast is brought to you in association with Season Master and the Window Workshop. All right, everybody, and welcome to your Wembley winning edition of the 9 Years podcast, episode 367. I am Nick Draper, joined as always by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deacons. Thank you very much for downloading the show this week. Stu, what do you want to talk about?
Well, we were just saying beforehand, weren't we? It's just like we can't wait for our summer break now. Do you know what I mean? It's like all of 5 weeks, it feels, until... Well, of course, yours is a bit longer because you don't do pre-season.
No.
But I'm just feeling like that 5-week break before crack on with bits and pieces. But yeah, it's still just trying to... It feels like I've got a permanent smile on my face. It's hasn't left me since probably about 4 o'clock. No, I lie. About 5 o'clock on Monday, because I don't know about you, but I never felt comfortable even at 1-0 and 91 minutes. I still thought, something's got to give.
See, nah, I was pretty comfortable, I can't lie. I did not see Warsaw scoring. Once the chance they had, Riley Harbottle cleared it off the line. Was it Jamil Matt who had that chance? Once we'd survived that one, I thought we were pretty comfortable, to be honest with you. I know a lot of Warsaw fans were unhappy. They felt their team didn't turn up, but against our defensive shape, against our defensive record, they were really struggling for ideas, I think. So no, I didn't. There's always the opportunity, of course. There's always the chance they're going to just knock one into the box and something's going to bounce their way and extra time and the goalkeeper goes up or anything like that. But I don't know. I think once we scored the goal, I was pretty happy that it was game over.
Yeah, do you know what? From the first half, I felt really comfortable in terms of before we scored late on in the first half. Felt like we were winning every second ball in midfield. We kept winning. Ali Smith, Hippolyte, or basically kept getting the ball, giving it back to Jake Reeves, and just starting again. I felt we just started, and I was in my head. I was thinking, Walsall don't really like the football. They're probably happy for us to have it. However, I also didn't feel they got any decent possessions because we kept winning every second ball. I felt we just took the energy out of them. So whatever team talk, whatever confidence they had going into it, I think we wiped it out in the first half, and then we scored the goal. And it's, our record, I think it was like out of 26 games that we'd gone ahead in, we'd only dropped from winning positions. We only dropped, I think, 6. So stat-wise, we knew we could hold on to it. I suppose I'm still scarred a little bit by the Barrows and the Swindon when we've thrown away leads. But let's be fair, that was a very small part of our season. For the rest of the season, we've been outstanding defensively, and you have to say, 4 1-0 wins on the trot. That's us this season. That is just Wimbledon in a nutshell.
Yeah, I did make the point on Nazi Twitter in the week. 1-0 was the most apt scoreline, I think, for us to finish the season on. I'll just have to remind myself of the exact statistics, but it did seem to fit with us, our defensive record, however many clean sheets we have had. Felt like we were going to have another 0-0 half-time, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And it was just in the nick of time that Miles Hippolyte scored the goal. Now, regular listeners to the podcast, I might try and find it from our archives, from the vault, Stu, but we did say on this podcast, Miles Hippolyte coming back into the team very, very late on into the season, Mark de Boller vibes. And so it proved a goal worthy of winning any game at Wembley, to use a cliche. He took it very, very well. It was a rare moment where we got a little bit of space in front of goal, apart from a Josh Nerfield chance in the second half, maybe, where he got in behind. Everything was restricted. Everything we had was restricted to outside the box. But that's kind of what you'd expect. As you said, Warsaw, similar to us, don't really want the ball, want to defend, want to get numbers back. So they'll be absolutely kicking themselves about the fact they conceded when they did as well. It felt like, though, in truth, a game that had it gone 0-0, had it finished 0-0, had it gone to penalties, whatever, it probably would have been it wouldn't have looked out of place. Let's put it that way. I think that's fair to say.
No, and I just felt Walsall, as a club, looked subdued. You know, their team looked subdued on the pitch. Like I say, they weren't winning second balls. I felt when we did get the goal, we were just starting to put a little bit of pressure on them. Not heavy pressure. We weren't. It wasn't the Alamo against them, but just felt we were gradually starting to get more width, gradually starting to go forward a bit, getting some corners, and it just felt their fans were very flat as well. Very different experience to, so if we think about the last three playoff finals we've been to, City, Manchester, or Luton probably outnumbered us on that occasion. Plymouth in 2016 outnumbered, but still a healthy attendance from us. This one just felt that we were the dominant team on and off the pitch. I think there was something symbolic for me was, I think it's 10 minutes into the second half, their fans started making some noise. That's not being disrespectful to Walsall, they just were very quiet. And I can understand why, but they started looking, try and get behind their team. And then the 28,500 Wimbledon fans just drowned them out. And it felt very symbolic to what was going on the pitch. It just felt the weight was on us, and they were done. You know, they brought on Albert of Doma, which did concern me. When I brought him on with half an hour, I'm like, okay, they're giving them more than enough time. But he did nothing. Whether that was through us defensively very good or just generally Walsall just didn't. I can't really feel when Walsall put any amount of pressure together going, we need to get out. You know, we just soak the pressure up, don't we? And yeah, it was. You know what? It was just such a lovely feeling. I enjoyed the celebrations. I know we're going to talk about that a little later, but it was just, yeah. I just, it's just as much I said in the last podcast that, you know, if we don't go up, then we've had a good season. It was a great way to finish.
Also didn't really have a spell of pressure or create anything really apart from that one chance that we have mentioned. It all comes down to our defensive shape as a team. I think we cancelled them. We, in truth, pretty much both teams probably cancelled each other out actually for long spells of it. I'm sure as a neutral
Yeah,
watching that game, it had very strong fourth division vibes. In fact, it was not an entertaining game for the neutral. There was a lack of quality throughout the game, but we cancelled each other out, especially in the wing back, the sort of fullback areas. I think not the best games for any of them from either side. It didn't matter. 1 minute, one moment of quality from a player, arguably a player that is playing at a level below where he should be. People will say the same
yeah,
about Marcus Brown as well, but obviously Hippolyte was the one that had the telling influence.
yeah. We've probably got a few players. I want to say above that. I'll say we've got some players that are probably top end of this level, and could do a job in League One. I think Miles Hippolyte definitely. Obviously, looking at Joe Lewis, there's Josh Noble. There's players that are top of this division, and can do a job in League One. And I think, yeah, I think that just showed. To be honest with you, but obviously, I sort of spared myself the thought of looking at League One. Obviously, I know my football well enough to know what League One is about, but it's only when you get promotion and you think, right, we are one of those teams amongst all of those, and then you think, wow, this is going to be I think it's going to be an exciting season, but it's definitely going to be a challenging season moving forward.
It's going to be a battle and a half, and I'm sure we'll talk about more about that later when we look at the retained list and the release list and
Yeah.
everything like that. By the end of it, Stu, 4 teams got promoted out of the fourth division. We finished fifth in the league, but would you say as a season as a whole that I think it's fair that across the course of the season, the entirety of the season, the four most consistent teams are the ones that ended up getting promotion? Is that fair?
Yeah, so if you think about playoffs, Chesterfield coming late, had a slow start, didn't they? Walsall had a great start and then had relegation. Like, you know, we've said before, they were from January, they were second from bottom if you had a league table. That tells you how much they dropped off. Notts County, they flat to deceive, to be honest with you. They love the football, just don't do enough with it. So, yeah, obviously we're biased, of course, but I think if you look at consistency, we probably had 4 or 5 game spell where we were inconsistent over a 46 game season. So, yeah, I think if you look at our average league position the whole way through, you know, Walsall basically Walsall were the pacers. If you had a world record attempt for like the 5,000 meters in athletics, they literally went off 2 or 3 laps in front and then just run out of gas.
It's funny because I'm just going to get up our statistics as well, because Warsaw, we went, people have said they went on that, what was it, 14 game, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 game, 13 game, 13 game winless run. All right. If we look at from March the 1st, they only actually lost 5 games, which probably isn't too dissimilar to us, to be honest with you. It's sometimes sometimes it's like lies, damn lies, and statistics. And actually, Stu, if you go from the 1st of March to the end of the season in the regular league season, we lost more games than Warsaw. It's funny old game, isn't it?
I think Warsaw got quite a few draws from
They
memory.
did, yeah.
And I remember at the time thinking they kept on losing leads,
Yeah.
which again suggested that they were done of confidence. I think it's one of those, isn't it? When the pressure's on, they didn't handle it very well, and that could be a lot of things, experience, game management and stuff like that. But yeah, I just feel if you look at the whole season, they beat Chesterfield comfortably in the playoffs. But I think if you look at us, we took Notts County 2-0 over on aggregate. Could have easily been more than that. I think we just turned. I think somehow, and I'd love to know what they did, but somehow we turned around a shit show. Because let's be fair, I've just listened to Craig Cope on the 72 Plus that Aaron Paul hosts. And he said he was more nervous going into the Grimsby game because we had a chance of not even getting into the playoffs. So somehow we have recovered from a 2-0 defeat at home to Port Vale, which was our heaviest home defeat, and gone on a run. So whatever we did, we've done well. I have a feeling it was very pretty similar to 2016 when the senior pros took over the dressing room. Doesn't mean there was a falling out. I just think the senior pros like your Ryan Johnson, your Sam Hutchinson, Marcus Brown's got experience. I think they're the ones that in the end probably took over and saw us through because we didn't look overawed by it. And I think Walsall just crumbled.
Who was your pick of the players at Wembley? Who was your man of the match?
I probably would have gone with Joe Lewis, probably. And do you know what? It probably wasn't one of his better performances, but he is just a man mountain in terms of I just feel when you've got a defender who's so comfortable on the ball and strong, and I think he exuberates confidence the whole way through the team. I thought Jake Roos won him close. And it's the irony, isn't it? We're going to talk about, what Jake Roos do. Well, he just does the stuff. He's boring. He just gets the ball. He passes it sideways. He passes it backwards. Hey, look, that's what's got us results.
I mean, I want to come on to Jake Roos actually in a little bit, to be honest with you. Interesting, Joe Lewis, when you say, comfortable in possession, it's funny when you watch us sometimes because, he'll often play as the deepest lying centre half, the centre of the three. And he'll quite often be charged with picking up the ball and moving it forward and knocking it long. Okay, people start to get frustrated with this towards the end of the season where we're sort of knocking long balls to no avail or whatever and stuff like this. But opposition teams never pressure him.
No.
Never press high. And it's not about Joe Lewis as much as it is, I think it's how fearful they are of the pace we've got in attacking areas.
Yeah, we've shown, haven't we, before when if teams try and come and press on us, we can go over the top.
Yeah.
And you're right, our wing backs are our threat. No one. I can't think of many teams that have come to us and really press us high. I just think there was just something. Hey, look, you couldn't. If I was arguing, you could probably say it wasn't much between him, Ryan Johnson, and Harbottle. They all were excellent as a trio. I just think Joe Lewis is just like. Do you know what was interesting? I don't know if you saw his reaction after the game. He truly looked like not stunned, thankful. It was just a really nice feeling. Because let's be fair, right? He come from Stockport, moved from a very good team in Stockport, come here, and I was listening to an interview that he did, and he said when he joined here, it was a project. Was told that we would get better season on season, and when you run it back, he's been a big part of So yeah, I just felt not for probably his whole round performance, but just generally how dominant he was. And I thought he was, look, Matt, who plays up for Warsaw, didn't really do much.
No,
He
did
didn't do
nothing.
much. And he's done. Hey, look, I've still the opinion. I don't think he's a great League Two forward, right?
No.
But I felt we dealt with him really. That was their vocal point, and he got hardly anything. And I think that's probably why I'm sort of contributing that to Joe Lewis of just stifling.
Did he get away with one with a shirt pull?
Do you know what? No, not really. I think, do you know what? I think it's one of those that, as a defender, you just use what you can. You try and nudge him. You try and shirt pulling is, hey, look, it depends how long you're shirt pulling for, isn't it? Their player still got forward and got a shot off. It was off balance. But I just think in the day and age of things, do you know what I mean? Defenders aren't supposed to be nice, are they? They're not supposed to go, I can't touch you, give you a little bit of a tickle around the shoulder. He just done everything he could to make sure within the rules, he made it as difficult as possible.
Within the rules, Amanci was the Warsaw player. But not the top 20 podcast, they referenced this because I didn't spot it at the time. I don't think any of us
No,
really
I
did.
didn't.
I remember the chance. I remember the chance. But I don't remember. I didn't really notice anything else to it. And no Warsaw player complained either. But they made the point: had Amanci gone down,
Yep.
would that have changed things?
It makes a decision, doesn't it? It makes a. We've said it before, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
And I think I listened to the same podcast, and it says a frustration that a player has to fall over or make more of what it is.
Yeah.
To get a decision. It's sort of like one of those, right? If I'm going to fall over, I'm going to make the referee make a decision, and it can be a case that he books you for diving, which because you can fall over without trying to claim.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there are times when you're knocked off balance and you're not trying to claim a penalty.
Yeah.
And a referee will book you for simulation. You can just fall over. You can lose your footing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be so one way or the other. But no, look, I'm biased, of course I am, but I felt he made it as difficult as possible with what he could do to make sure he didn't get a clean shot off. And to be fair, as a first mistake he made, he just got too tight. He got tight and got rolled. And he's a big lad. So he did more in that moment than Matt did in the whole time he was on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what Warsaw fans and their opinions of him. I thought Amanci probably looked their most likely too. I think he looked their most mobile and therefore their most dangerous forward. But after that chance, as we've said, there was nothing. We managed that game out comfortably. So
yeah, we did. And I'll say my only worry was an Albert Adoma come on, and look at him in the playoff semi-final against Chesterfield, a lovely bit of skill in the corner, and he's got that individual ability. And it's like I've said with Marcus Brown before. Yes, I don't think Marcus Brown's great in the team dynamics of it, but he's got individual ability that could probably win you a match. And when we have such tight games, that can be the difference. Let's be fair, right? No one's going to remember if we play well or not at Wembley. No one's going to remember that. All you're going to do is see the score. And that's it. At Wembley, it's in the playoff final, it's just about winning by hook or by crook.
Hey, Stu, I made this point so many times. We can talk about so many things with this game of football, but as we've all said, what are you going to remember as a Wimbledon fan? Like playoff finals, yes, they're great entertainment. In theory, they're great entertainment for the neutral. We'll come on to that one a little bit later as well. But really, they're for the fans of the clubs on the day. And the memory is you won at Wembley. All right. And you're not going to remember, we're not going to remember anything else. We're going to remember the goal. We're going to remember the feeling of it. We're going to remember the atmosphere. Everything else that comes along with football these days, as we've said many times before, is totally irrelevant to the core of what football is. And that was, hey, look, that was a great day. Notts County in the playoffs, in the semi-finals, were two great occasions. The home game, great day for me. And I think looking back on that day, I remember stepping off the train into Wimbledon. There was just great vibes and, people in Wimbledon colours everywhere and just saying hello to people I've never seen before, but just recognising the fact Wimbledon colours.
Yeah.
Wembley is exactly the same. Everyone's in it together, bringing people together, getting behind a team, uniting behind that team. Everything else gets pushed to one side for those moments. So all the other nonsense that comes along with modern football just shows you what is important. And the important thing is great occasion, great atmosphere, great colour from us, great numbers, great team performance. Okay, you can say it wasn't a great game. You can say we didn't create much or whatever as attacking team. It was a great team performance because we won the
Yep.
game. And hey, memories are made of this.
But
So happy days.
when you look back at, Notts County and Warsaw were one of the top goal scorers in the league.
They are. This is
And
true.
we had 3 games against them in total, combined and conceded a goal.
Yeah.
That tells you all we need. And our defence has been outstanding defence this year. But no, I echo. Do you know what? Wembley was just a great day. Just a great day. I think you and I just said beforehand we've been tired for a few days after it. So I think it is exhausting mentally. We all can say we want to go enjoy the day out, but you want to win. Of course you do. But one thing that I think one of the memories I would take is just the amount of fans we had there.
Yeah.
It was, I think, probably 10 minutes for the kickoff. I just looked up and you could see the top tier quite a bit full up. Ours was just packed out, and it was just, I wouldn't say it was noisy, because I know you've mentioned about the pre-match. I thought the pre-match noise was just that. It was noise.
Yeah.
Although I did have this like trying to find where the DJ was standing, because I was looking on.
Yeah, I couldn't see where it was actually.
I'm like, is he actually here? Like, I felt it was just noise, and it's actually quite interesting. I had to take my son out because he just was struggling. And actually, as I got out there was quite a lot of people that when I mentioned it, they went, "Yeah, we're struggling. We've come out here actually just to get away from the noise as such."
Yeah.
But yeah, I just, like I say, 10 minutes for the game, I went back in, just looking around and just thinking like we have progressed so much. And sometimes, from 9 years ago, 2016, when we took 23,000, it might feel we only took another 5,000 or 6,000, but it felt a lot more than that. I just see how the club had developed and changed. Obviously, we're Plough Lane now, and yeah, it was just great. And then, like I say, win the game and the celebrations afterwards. It was just. I have to say, the post match, I enjoyed all the music. I won't lie. I just, it was just that chance to celebrate with the players, and yeah, great way to. It's just a great way to finish the season.
It is the best way to get promoted, they say. Bradford fans might disagree with us, but in terms of a playoff campaign, I mean, in truth, it was pretty comfortable, wasn't it? We can't go anyone with a particularly smoother path, I suppose. Charlton maybe, but otherwise, I think it was no real nerves, no real ups, downs, roller coaster, or anything. That was very, very straightforward, but very much in keeping with the way we play and the way the team is set up and goes about games. So I think it was reflective absolutely of our season as a whole. Two things I must not forget. I do want to talk about playoffs. Should we get playoffs out of the way first? Because I'll come back to Wembley atmosphere. Because we know we talk about playoffs and the stupid Saturday nighttime and lunchtime kickoffs and everything that I hate about all these games and things like that. Do you think now? The thing is, the playoffs. I suppose you and I, in a way, we sort of grew up with them, really, because they only sort of came in late 80s. Early 90s. So we've sort of grown up with them in a certain regard. And I'm just wondering if actually the appetite for them is dying off a bit. I didn't feel this weekend with the three, I didn't feel the usual sort of excitement about, obviously for us it was different because we were involved, but the other games and my general mood from other football fans and the general sort of zeitgeist of the time, that's not the right word, but the general atmosphere around them, I didn't feel there was that much. I didn't feel as much for them, if that makes sense. I felt like they were very much under the radar. Didn't generate the same levels of excitement and interest. And I just wonder if people, because then what happens is you go on social media and people start doing, all these football clubs start doing, on this day 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, we won at Wembley and and you kind of go, gosh, I've got no recollection of these, because they're now like the old days. They were still quite fresh and quite new. So Manchester City, Gillingham, and Leicester and Crystal Palace and Swindon, all these sorts of things, because they're quite new. They sort of, you can remember them, but as time's gone on, you kind of go, yeah, I have no recollection of any of these things happening whatsoever.
I think it's probably a reflection on the amount of footballers on TV. I think that's still probably the case.
There is, yes, there is that.
And it's a weird one as well because if you think about it, we finished end of April? Yeah, end of April we finished, didn't we?
No, first week of May, didn't we?
First
Just
week.
before the May bank
Yeah,
holiday.
Port Vale was 30th, wasn't it? That's right. But the Premier League still had 2 or 3 weeks left.
Yeah.
So it didn't, like, I think like the FA Cup was for the last game of the season. And,
Yeah.
so you felt like the playoffs were a quick turnaround time. But there's still so much football. It's weird because I pick and choose my games. You had European Cup European finals this week.
Yeah, what bullshit competition that is.
Well, the Conference League is a bullshit competition. Let's be fair. Yeah, I was thinking about this. Yeah, the Champions. So you had the Champions Cup in my day, and then you had the UEFA Cup.
Yeah, and then the Cup Winners' Cup, and they all made sense.
But they just, let's be fair, Chelsea just cheated the system by going in. Someone said it's a clean sweep of trophies. Well, if they don't win the Conference League with the squad that they've got, like, let's not forget, Chelsea didn't even register for the first phase of that competition. Didn't even register a lot of their top players. They didn't need them.
No.
They only registered them. I think you could do. I think there was another period after a certain qualification when you could then re-register the team, and then they brought all the top players in. But that's how they treated the competition. And don't get me started on Europe. I just think if you win the UEFA, the European League, or what's it called?
Europa League.
Europa League. How the hell you don't defend your title and you go into the Champions League? It's just ridiculous. It's just looking after the big boys.
Of course.
That's like, so yeah. And I don't get me wrong, I like Champions League because I think I like watching top quality football, and I actually do like the format. The format that they've done, actually, I did enjoy a little bit more because you actually had some bigger teams playing each other rather than the standard group games when they could put out a second string. But yeah, to sort of get back to the point, I think it's just a saturation of football.
Yeah.
So that's probably why the FA Cup doesn't stand out as much as it used to, because the FA Cup used to be in the last game of the season, and now it was felt like we're going to try and fit this in somehow around the Premier League, which is crazy. And also, like I say, so now if you think about it, you've got the European Cup final tonight, so we're recording this on Saturday. You've then got England have got games. You've got the Club World Cup. Like Man United have already got friendlies. They literally flown out. And of course, there's going to be too many games for them.
No FA Cup replays.
Yeah, they're mad about being tired, but they couldn't wait to get on a plane out to Hong Kong.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's also the women's European Championships, isn't it? Not this
yes,
summer.
they played last night, won 6-0. And yeah, but you know what? The Lionesses are just a total. Actually, the Lionesses I like in a way because it's just a different take on football around the women's games and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I get what you mean. I think when you're involved in it, I think, of course, naturally you get more excited. But I suppose anything to play. So I used to like it when so in the Scottish. So on Saturday night when I got back, I watched Ross County versus Livingston. So you get the promotion relegation. So Ross County finished in the relegation place.
They finished 11th, I think, in the
Scottish
Premier League.
And the Scottish Premier split at halfway, so they have like a 2 leagues. They have basically a title winning section and a relegation section, and then Ross County had to play Livingston, who finished, I think, 2nd or 3rd in the Championship. I like that. That to me, I quite like that idea.
Well, that's how it started in England, didn't it? I remember
it was with Chelsea
Middlesbrough. Yeah,
and Middlesbrough won, didn't they, at Stamford Bridge, and yeah, it was a good job their fences up at that time. But yeah, so I quite like that idea.
Sorry, do I have to say yes? It probably was, but there was also at that time Chelsea didn't have any fans. So
well, let's be fair. At that point, it was so far away they had to get past the car,
to get one of those little cars to drive
past the car park first, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? And by the time they got on the pitch, they were so knackered they fell over. That's how you get everybody. That's how you stop crowd trouble. Just build a ground that's so far away, and then make sure the pitch is just so far away. So by the time they get there, they're done.
Yeah, they can't be bothered anymore.
But yeah, do you know what? I like the playoffs. I think that I like the playoffs for the fact that it gives someone mid-table something to aim for, and it doesn't become there's not dead rubber.
Oh yes, like that. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's just saturation, and talking about the playoffs, I think actually the semi-finals are better than the finals. The semi-finals are good, and maybe that's just because it's a one-off game. It's a case of sometimes going, we don't want to lose.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of maybe different factors in that. I think your point of proof when it comes to what football is really, as we've said, when football began, you didn't have this before television began, so people would very much support their team and they were interested in their team, and that's who really football is for, really, at the end of the day. But then potentially the other argument is semi-finals at the team's home stadiums completely packed out. I know the championship one would have been sold out, but maybe for League One and League Two, Division Three, Division Four, maybe conference, maybe Wembley isn't needed. Controversial opinion, but maybe Wembley isn't needed.
Do you know what? I think it's interesting, because we do argue sometimes that we play at Wembley all the time. I was noticing actually England got a game, actually they're playing at the City Ground rather than Wembley.
Yes.
Which is lovely because England shouldn't just be centred at Wembley because we have, England's more than just London, that side of it. I'm with you. I don't think every game has to be played at Wembley, but of course, selfishly, from a fan's point of view, you'd be gutted if it wasn't at Wembley because that's what it always is. I think probably the Championship and probably League, you probably could do Championship and League One at Wembley. I think the problem you've got is we got 50,000 attendance. I think the year before was 30,000, 20,000. So I think it suggests that depending on who finishes in the League Two playoff final, really it probably could go to a local, so for example, say, if Oldham were, if Morecambe were playing Fleetwood, you don't want them travelling all down to Wembley, do you? Just chuck it at Old Trafford or something. But I think they have to book it so far in advance. That's probably the problem. And then you could argue the National League doesn't need to be played at Wembley, but then you've got Southend and Oldham, who I think have sold about 30,000 tickets each.
Yeah, but have they sold those tickets because they are in the playoff final or because the game is at Wembley?
Could be, but could be. Wembley's an
attraction in itself, because I don't think we take 28,000 if the game's not at Wembley.
Depends where you go, because you could argue if it was being played at Tottenham, and I know we're using another London club, but Tottenham possibly
possibly other special. Yeah, possibly another London stadium. Yeah.
If you're playing at Sheffield like Fulham, apologies.
We're going to come onto the grounds in a minute.
Do you know what I mean? Or just have home advantage and playing the second best ground in the league.
The lower leagues do this.
Yeah. So it's a very difficult one. It's a difficult one. I don't know. I'm probably being selfish because I'd have been gutted if I still remember when we couldn't play at Wembley because of the Champions League final being there. We had to travel up to the City of Manchester Stadium. But it's a selfish point of view. But I think there's a discussion there.
Hardest bit about Manchester was the fact that it was us and Luton, and we were all going on the same trains back. That was hard.
It was.
Those trains back out of Manchester. Trains up, fine. Trains down, like a horror story.
Yeah,
never mind.
And it great. We got synergy with Luton the whole way through, and we're in the same league.
Fixtures when they come out, bet every £1 you have that we play Luton first.
Because it's weird.
First game we had in the conference.
Yeah, come down to our final draw, wasn't it?
It was. First home game for them back in the Football League was us. We beat them at Kenilworth Road. So do not be surprised. These fixtures are not, we know they're not random anyway, because we have to fill out a questionnaire, don't we, about who we want to play when and stuff like that. Just also bank on Plymouth away or home, either or, if not both, midweek. Because unfortunately, we are one of their more local fixtures. So.
Yeah. And do you know what? I did wonder whether we'd ever play at Kenilworth Road again. That unique place. Might have been a cup game, but to go back in as a league game would just be, I'll say, looking at League One clubs, it's a tough league. It's but the more I've sort of analysed it, I've actually thought, do you know what, this could be a decent season. You've got to look at the teams like Stevenage and that who stay up, and go, what is their model? They just fall over more than everyone else and get free kicks.
They have a model stadium, don't they? It's not a real stadium, that is it? But it's made out of Lego.
But it'll be great. It'll be good. Do you know what I mean? We've gone up a level. We're in the third tier of English football. We're one less. Let's be fair, right? If we're ever going to fall out of league, we've now got one more relegation as a safety plan.
That's an optimistic view. If ever I heard one.
Well, it is. You don't want that cutthroat of dropping out of the league is massive in terms of funding. Do you know what I mean? And your academy and all those sort of things. So, but is it wrong, right? When the final whistle went, I thought about this is great, but then I also thought this is going to be such good coverage for the fan-led episode, fan-owned episode, chapter 3. Like I was thinking, can you imagine all the footage they're going to
Yeah, and as we said before, Stu, it'll be great for us.
get?
It'll be great for us.
I know, but
I've
if you
got
listen,
like I don't really. If I was a Salford fan, for example, I don't.
no,
Do I want to watch footage of Wimbledon players celebrating in the
no, but
changing rooms?
it's for us, isn't it? You know, because I
Yes.
looked at when Matchday Uncovered was released, I'm sitting there thinking, well, it's a bit of a cheat, really, because they're not going to release all the good bits.
No, true.
Because all the good bits are going to be going on the episode. I'm really looking forward to. You're right, John. If we get, we've said on last week, didn't we? If we manage to get anything out of that, great. But from a personal point of view, I'm seeing stuff that I've never seen before, and that's great. And it just gives you another chance to enjoy. Because I don't know about you, the celebrations. I just felt they were. I felt they were a bit better than 2016. I don't know why I say them, maybe because they're more fresh in my memory.
Yeah,
But
probably.
just so many individual stories on there, and there was a picture that I thought was quite good. I don't know if you saw. And I normally don't like this when you get a player that does the and they do the 3 fist bumps. I'm
Yes.
like, oh mate, it's like fucking hell. But Johnny Jackson did one, and there's a picture of him doing that and all the team behind him.
Yeah.
And I just felt that's a very symbolic picture because he has had let's be fair, right? I've never seen a manager get so much, well, get basically roasted and have his performance review in full sight of the fans
Yeah.
back after his first season. And I said to you before, my respect for him and admiration went up untold in that evening because I would have just walked out of the room. Such was the stupid questions and the performance review. It was a performance review for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And how he stood up to that. So that picture for me is symbolic of the way he's fought against it because he's been, let's be fair, right? He's been called a Charlton man so many times. He's not a Wimbledon man, he's a Charlton man. And I think we might have just finally seen people accept Johnny more than, I think he's not, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's disliked, but I think there is a core behind that would not have been disappointed to see him go. But he's delivered, and that's what he was here for.
Towards the end of that first season in charge, he looked broken. I can't lie,
Massive.
especially the Salford game. I think he just thought, do you know what? What have I done? But hey, yes, he has shown fantastic resilience, kept to his principles, kept to his style of play, and it's paid off for us and recruited in line with that. And it paid off for us at Wembley. Now, we must not forget, Stu, the atmosphere at Wembley then. So you talked about it there and the pre and post match. Just let us sing. All right. They treated us, I think I likened it to being like 8-year-olds at the school disco, where they have to create the atmosphere and they have to create the. No, you don't. No, we don't. We could have had a beautiful little post-match celebration with a few songs of our own and things like that to sing along with, but no, it was just constant. It was just the fact, Stu. I think there's a place for it with the music over the PA that we can sort of dance along to and whatever. But I think there's room for both, and the music just didn't pre and post match. It just did not stop, and I really wanted it just to. And to be honest with you, at Plough Lane sometimes it can be a bit like that. Sometimes at Notts County it was before the game. I was just like, just switch the music off, because for me, personally, I think it killed the atmosphere actually pre-match because there wasn't any. Pre-match there wasn't any atmosphere. It probably didn't do the Walsall fans any good either.
No.
And I think just no need for it. All the other stuff, like the other stuff just makes me laugh. Like the giant, massive trophy on the pit. Like why? Like if you've got money to do that, like I think you've got priorities wrong. The fireworks. I know it's been there for years and stuff like that. No, why? 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 What is this? And the irony of it all is, we kicked off at 3:01 to highlight the Just a Minute campaign for if someone has a heart attack and how to learn CPR, whatever. They put the video up on the screen, couldn't hear a word of it.
I know. It was funny, wasn't it? I'm like, what have you done? Where have you recorded this?
Yeah, it made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, do you know what? It's an interesting one. So the pre-match one, music did. It just didn't kill the atmosphere. There was an atmosphere, but it wasn't an atmosphere that was symbolic of a Wimbledon game.
No, or a big game at Wembley like you would have grown up watching.
Both sets of fans had gone to the ground and basically they were just told, well, this is your Wembley atmosphere, not your atmosphere.
Yeah.
I get that. As for all the inflatables, the fireworks, Thomas loved them. His face was just a picture. So it was really interesting, obviously looking as a parent, looking at how he loved, like when he saw a camera on a bit of string, it was like, what the hell is that, Daddy? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then he saw the big trophy, and I was like, Thomas, I don't know how we're going to pick that up at the end. And he took me seriously. He's like, oh, and then I've got a smaller one. And when he saw the giant inflatable and the fireworks, his face was a picture. So I sort of understand it if I'm trying to look at what the modern game's like. And that's, you and I are old school. We just turned up and got our Bovril and got in there at 5-2.
Well, but the point surely is that the fireworks and the inflatables and stuff like that, you don't see any of that for the duration of the game, and surely it's the game that brings you there.
Yeah, and you've seen it many a time. I've seen it at some games, big games. Let's go Wembley and that. Is you have all this pre-match atmosphere, and the game starts. They turn everything off, and you're like, oh, it's just gone normal. And that's what it is. Football is a game of 22 people and a big blow-up football full of air. That's what football is, when you strip it down to all the levels. Post-match, I really enjoyed. So I think maybe my compromise might have been to not have the music so quickly. So maybe have a music stop.
Yes, gaps.
Or 4 or 5 minutes and then go again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's a place for both.
Yes.
Because you're right, because we didn't sing play a chance because there was no point.
Didn't even get to ask Milton Keynes if they were watching.
So I think just as much as I enjoyed, don't get me wrong, the music was just, hey, look, when you're celebrating, and it's like when you go to a good party and then someone puts on some banging tunes, it's happy days, do you know what I mean? But I think there could have been a compromise of maybe having a bit of a section where we could actually sing songs like 10 More Years and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what the downside about winning at Wembley is you just feel that's your last moment with that team, because the retain list is going to come out.
Yes.
And there was a few players on there that, and obviously we've been lucky enough to get with the team, obviously with our stuff this season. So I watched. So for me, it was quite interesting because obviously I'm normally very lucky to be down pitch side, and I get on quite well with quite a lot of players. But like Miles Hippolyte, I was there, I couldn't stop smiling when he picked up the trophy, because I know from chatting to him how much he was struggling to get fit all season. And you just sit there and think, great, do you know what I mean? But then I saw players like James Ball, John Joe O'Toole, once I recognised him, he had his haircut. And you sort of think that's probably their last game.
Yeah.
So it's bittersweet. It's just bittersweet. You can't maybe say goodbye to them as much as you could do if it was a plough lane and they're a bit closer. And do you know what I mean? That sort of side of it. But bittersweet. But that's football. Players move on.
Players, managers, they always change, but the only thing that stays the same are the fans. That's what AFC Wimbledon was formed under.
Yep.
And so it is. That said, the departing list. Shall I read it out in full?
Yes.
Ruben Amisser, James Ball, Huss Biller, Paris Lock, Ryan McLean, Will Nightingale, John Joe O'Toole, Lewis Ward, and Morgan Williams. James Ball, Will Nightingale, John Joe O'Toole. I think we all knew that was coming.
Yes.
We'd probably have had a strong sense that perhaps Huss Biller was also. Ryan McLean, we got promoted. That's what's done him, I think. If I'm being honest with you, with the injury and the fact we got promoted, it's just he needed time to adjust, and he didn't get that opportunity. So it's a sad story, really. Actually,
I think you're right. I think there's a few on that list that unfortunately promotion might not have helped them. I tell you what's interesting about his retain list, and it's something I've noticed with Craig Cope and his recruitment. He's got no place for sentiment. He's he's a data person, which you have to be in this day and age. But what I mean by that is I think through the years, we probably kept hold of some academy players that we probably knew that they probably were 50-50 or just give them another year. I don't think Greg Cope does that. I think he's very measured in terms of he feels that you bring your best academy players through. But there's so many academy players that are released by other clubs, and I think you can have a successful mix. So when we so there's a few Paris Lock, Ruben Amisser, Morgan Williams who've been let go, who I probably think they were first year pros last year. I have a feeling 4 or 5 years ago, we'd have given him another year, but we're not. So I think that's where I can see, and I think we've been getting Hus Bider's probably a big example of that. You know, we probably kept him too long, and we might have stifled his footballing career because he's not getting games. So actually, some of those players will go out and get football. So yeah, that's just one thing I've noticed from our recruitment strategy is it's a lot different around our academy.
James Furlong, Owen Goodman, Joe Pigott, Alistair Smith loans have ended. Do you think we will see Owen Goodman and Alistair Smith again?
I don't think we'll see Owen Goodman again, no,
Okay.
personally. Ali Smith, I hope so. It's always a weird one with the loans, isn't it? Because obviously they have to be released by their club. I'm sure, I suppose people might look and go, well, we're saying we're in discussions with Sam Hutchinson and Marcus Brown, and why would we not we're in discussion with Ali Brown? We might well be, but I suppose their contracts run out with us rather than Ali Smith's run out with Lincoln, so it would be a free transfer, wouldn't it? But yeah, Owen Goodman, I just think when I look at the strategy of a lot of Premier League clubs, I've seen before where goalkeepers have been on loan, they've gone up, got promoted, but they haven't. The goalkeeper hasn't returned. You find a lot of them now have a strategy where they want them to go out and basically experience different types of football. So just as much as finding a different league and going up, also a different club, because it just makes them more all-round goalkeepers. So I'd be very surprised if we saw Owen Goodman back next year.
First year pro contract offers include Riley Horan. I thought he was in One Direction. Edward Leach, I'm pretty sure, was on the Dons Trust board. Finance guy.
It's been recycled.
Blimey, that's like Doctor Who-esque type of Benjamin Buttonist types. Waiting to hear from Ryan Johnson, Josh Nerfel, and James Tilley, who have been all offered new contracts. So watch this space, I guess, developing over the next couple of weeks until we know exactly what goes on.
Yeah, I think they're on their holidays. I know Josh well. Yeah, I think they've all gone away, most of them, and rightly so. I guess they're going to probably refresh, evaluate. I'm sure. To be fair, I'm sure all three of those players are probably going to be in demand. Probably more James Tilley and Josh Nerville. I'm sure they're going to have attractive offers elsewhere. Ryan Johnson is a bit older, been there, done it, seen it. I think he might have more of a chance of keeping Ryan Johnson because of his age and what he looks at football. But you just have to hope, not that, money is really important to players, and it's a very short career. I just hope maybe the experiences of Wembley and all those fans and the excitement of it might push Josh Nerville and James Tilley to give us another 2 years. Because let's be fair, Josh Nerville, we get him on a contract, I think he'll have a good season in League One, and he's a very sellable asset. Whereas at the moment, we basically lose him for zilch, which would be disappointing.
On that note, Stu, who was your player of the year?
Josh Nerville.
Yeah. Do you know,
no question about that.
Yeah, I'm going to say something that's going to be fairly controversial here. I mean, you mentioned there you don't think we'll get Owen Goodman back, but for me, there are 3 players in the squad this season that, were we not to have them, I think we would be significantly worse off. Josh Nerfel is one of those.
Yep.
Owen Goodman is the second one of those.
Yep.
Tim Hansen, Plough Lane by Numbers, his blog points out that these 2 players played more minutes than anyone else in the squad in the league this season. Owen Goodman was an ever-present. Josh Nerfel started every single game, 98% of minutes available he played. Okay, so I don't think it's going to surprise anyone to think that those 2 players were integral. Josh, because of what we said before about him and how integral he is to how we go about games and winning games. Owen Goodman improved massively as the season has gone on.
Yeah.
Especially, we all know what we were thinking after 10 minutes of the season at home to Colchester United, 2-0 down with 2 crosses in the box and 2 headers. Okay. We all know what we were all thinking at that point. He has improved massively, but also, in fairness, part of why I say that he would be one, we'd be not sure behind him what our options were. All right, but let's just leave that one there. The third player, Jake Rees.
Yes.
Okay. I think every other player we can and have throughout the season demonstrated that we were okay. We could make things work, okay, without them. We had enough options in positions to be okay. But I think those three were massive, and that's ridiculous when you consider that, Matty Stevens scored however many goals for us this season. But yeah, I think when I look at those three, who would I say is the most important, who had the best season? Then yeah, it has to be Josh Nerfel.
Yeah, I agree with you. I probably would say there's probably two players that probably would run them very close, and that would be Joe Lewis and Omar Begil.
Yeah,
And actually spine. So there's no surprise about that. Our
no,
spine is strong because our defensive shape as a team is very strong. But yeah, I think you're right. Even though Omar hasn't scored as many goals this season, I just think it's really weird when you say that he's a forward, but in our defensive structure, he is so important.
yeah,
Because he defends from the front. But it's going to be, it's interesting. I've already seen on socials that people are suggesting, do we replace Jake Reeves? Can he do it in League One? And there's questions. There's questions naturally, isn't there?
yeah.
So we're going to see now whether Joe Lewis is as good defensively in League One as he was in League Two. And we're going to see if Jake Reeves. I think personally, Jake's fine because age-wise, he's still got about 4 or 5 years of strong league football. And you always find the higher you go up, it's not always about pace. It's probably more about technical ability, and he's got that in abundance. So it'll be really interesting. Even to the extent people, we're talking about Addy Smith. People saying about it'd be good if we can get him back in League One. We have to remember Lincoln considered him not good enough for League One.
Yeah.
So you get lots of people going, oh well, I think they'd be a good player in League One. Ultimately, we don't know because we've not watched League. I've watched a lot of League One, but it's very difficult to compare teams in different divisions. But there was no doubt there's a strength in that League One. So we're going to have a lot of questions on players or whether they can do it in that league. And it's probably why I would try and keep the nucleus of the team as much as possible, because ultimately Neil Ardie said after 2016 he probably made too many decisions of letting go players.
Yeah.
And we've just had the best defensive record in League Two by miles.
Yeah.
It deserves to see whether that is going to be good in. And someone else said to me, do you know what? The teams that go up that have had a structure behind them and have built their team gradually do well when they go up, because actually there's not much change. They've got a strong structure behind them.
Yeah.
They know each other and they tend to do okay. And if you look at it from that point of view, we've got a team that has grown together. Just needs a splash of, I don't know, splash of water growth on it. I don't know. Yeah, I lost my finger. It just needs a little bit of additional. If it was a cake, it might just need a few more raisins.
What a beautiful metaphor. I shall remember that one for the start of next season on the podcast. Have we got any raisins in, Stu? Let's see. I mean, we will, of course, before the season starts, we'll do a big preview of League One, but we must remember the last two playoff winners from Division 4, both got relegated straight back down, and in Carlisle's case, straight back down again. So, but anyway, there's lots of so many differentials between the three situations there, which we won't go into now because we've got other things to talk about. Okay, 4 more questions I want to ask you about the season as a whole. Let me start you off with who was over the season. Of course, the season, who do you think was the best team we played in the league and the best player we faced?
Oh, crikey. I probably would say best team we faced was Port Vale.
Yeah.
At home. I thought they were outstanding. Best player we faced. Do you know what? I probably was. Port Vale was a real interesting one for me. I think it was Hall, their centre half, Hall at the back.
Yeah.
It was one time when I just thought we're in a different league here. Like they just bigger, stronger.
Yeah.
I think the Port Vale team was very good. I think there's a few players in there. Jaden Stockley.
Yeah.
Proper League Two forward. Like I know people were talking about a goal that it was unmarked. It wasn't. He just ran across the line. Just what we just don't see that at the level. So I probably would say Port Vale and probably Jaden Stockley would probably be the best player that I've seen in terms of centre forward play.
Most memorable game other than Wembley?
I think the game against them. I don't think you can go far away from that. I look back, I suppose moments would probably be Accrington with the James Tilley.
Yeah.
I think there's some moments in games that were just breathtaking. And what we talked about before, about that resilience. that we had. I thought Accrington showed it massively in that game.
I mean, best game for me will be the 2-0. I know it wasn't in the league, but it was against a team in our division. But when Connor Evans got sent off, oh, what a moment.
Just funny, I was doing a tour. So I was at a Fair Game conference on Thursday. And we did some tours. So of course you got a lot of fans and stuff like that. And so I take them along the second floor showing pictures. Then you saw the picture of Ronnie Curtis.
Yeah.
And someone just asked me and said, "Oh, yeah, what's the situation when you go there?" And I said, "We don't take many fans. That changing the FA Cup game." So what about your directors? So, we don't accept invitation. And I said, probably one of the best pictures we don't have up here is I explained the situation about Connor. What's his name? I don't know what his name is. That player. And I said about.
It doesn't matter what his name is.
Yes, that player who was rumoured to be travelling to us and took a detour. And I said our director of football was waving strongly when you got sent off. I said it's probably the best picture of miles. And why is it not up? Like, I'm going to actually say that. Why is it not up in the hospitality hallway? Because, but do you know what? I'm just talking about my tour. I did a tour for University of North Carolina yesterday. Mm-hmm. They love, one thing they said to me, I suppose Americans are very much this way. They just said, "You've got so much history."
There we go.
That was the word because they looked along there and you got all the things. They said, "You've got so much history. You could just see it a mile off." They were just mesmerized by it. And do you know what? Sometimes it's that takes you back a little bit. That, we had 28,500 fans at Wembley. We could probably say half of them might be not fair weather fans, but casual fans. It just shows we've got something going. We've got just as much as we moan and we become a little bit complacent with what we've got a very good thing.
Bit of a strange question to follow up with now, unfortunately. The next one on my list. What was the lowest moment of the season?
Easy. Barrow at home.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Easily. I've just never seen a dynamic of a game change. I've never seen a dynamic of a game change so much from a Barrow bench that looked like they were just frustrated to go in. I've just never seen it turn that full circle, and that's probably the lowest moment, thinking that shit, this is points, because we were going for let's be fair, we were going for automatics then.
Yeah.
So that's one of my lowest, probably one that I can think of this season.
I have to be honest, I think it's being doubled by Bromley in the same vein as when it happened against
Well, we knew that
Sutton.
was going to be, but we knew it, didn't we? We all called it.
We did. We knew we were going to lose the first game to them in the league, their first home game in the Football League. We all knew that was going to happen, whatever will be. But to lose them at home as well against, it was. I mean, just makes you laugh though, because now we've got a pre-season friendly lined up away at Sutton United, and we're only 2 seasons removed from them doing the double over us, and then bringing however many fans playing, and it just shows you how quickly things can change to the point we're now organising friendlies with them again. So, hey, it's a funny old game, isn't it?
Let's look at teams in League One, right? Huddersfield. I remember going to Huddersfield at the McAlpine Stadium when it first thing. Bolton. It's funny, we have some Bolton fans at the Fair Game. They talked about us, and I said, "Yeah, I went to your place." And they said, "Oh," I said, "Yeah, the Reebok's lovely. I know it's called a Tough Sheet Stadium." And I went, "Crikey, you lot must love it when you lose a game. Tough shit." But I was saying about our podcast about in terms of we don't like calling them by the thing. One thing I did do when I done the tour, there was Reading fans, Sheffield Wednesday fans, Bolton fans, all asking where the away end was. And a Bolton fan went, "Well, what we have?" I said, "We'll start out in a minute." So I said, "We better get in quickly then, mate."
Yeah.
But it just, again, wasn't any big bravado. It wasn't a big I am. It was just a case of we're in a proper league.
Yeah, Bolton have already been down to Pal Lane and they've already sold out that away end. So I mean, it's
Huddersfield, Cardiff coming down, Reading.
Yeah.
There's some big clubs in that league. I think when I looked at it, we've gone, average attendance is like 3rd or 4th in League Two, and it'd probably be like 4th or 5th from bottom in League One. That, again, not about fans, but just shows you the size of clubs that are in there.
It does indeed. Goal of the season?
Do you know what? I probably would have said James Tilley against Accrington, because I thought that goal was brilliant. I'm probably now. Obviously, I've got the benefit of the playoffs, so I'll probably go with the Josh Neuville
Yeah.
goal, because I just think, hey, look, you can call it a long ball, but if it's Liverpool, it'd be a long pass. We've known that energy for ages, but the touch and finish against a goalkeeper that we know is a top goalkeeper. So yeah, Josh Neuville.
It is the end of the season, Stu. We cannot finish the season and finish off without first playing a last game of My Father Was a John Joe Toolmaker, because this is it. For the last time ever, we will have to do a new game next season. But should we, for one final time, can we get one right on the cryptic clue?
Good luck.
Let's have a go. I think few people at home will get this. Let us know if you do. Cryptic clue, titular character, Bades farewell.
Go again.
Titular character bears Bades farewell. You might say titular if you want to, if it helps, but it's titular.
I haven't got a clue. I'm just going to go for some stupid reason that you might try and kid me. I'm going to go for John Joe O'Toole.
It's a good shout, Stu. It's a good shout. Should we see if you're right?
Yeah.
Second clue.
Mm.
He is a centre half.
Okay.
Who won promotion in 2016?
With us?
No, the clue is centre half who won promotion in 2016.
I'm going to sit with John Joe O'Toole.
Okay. Final clue then. Former Burton Albion and Northampton player, last played at Plough Lane in 2024.
Yes, it would be John Joe O'Toole.
Do you know what? We're putting the round of applause music on here for the sound effects, Stu. You got it on the cryptic clue.
Yeah, but I didn't get it because
finally.
I didn't get it because of the cryptic clue. I got it because I thought you might try and play me. I'm stupid enough sometimes to not think that way.
Do you know? It wasn't an attempt to play you at all. I just thought we need a former player. It's the last time we were going to do it, and it fit perfectly. It fit like a hand in a glove.
Do you know what? It's going to be really disappointing, actually. Again, player that's leaving that is such a top guy. And it's mad, isn't it? Because I was watching some highlights in the museum actually the other day when Niall Taylor was in there doing an interview, and in the season that we went up, he scored in 2016. He scored at Kings Meadow for Northampton, and it was just he's been symbolic in a way with our progress through the leagues. He's always been playing against us in such a way, and you know that game against Mansfield when he was on the bench and he come on and we got him. And hey, look, do you know what? He hasn't done loads, but I bet he's been great around the change room.
Yes,
experience and stuff like that. You know, like Sam Hutchinson as well, and so pleased that he's recovering and stuff like that. But yeah, it's going to be a gutter to lose him. But hey, look, hopefully players like that find a club. I'm sure they will. In Bawley and that have got a lot to offer still.
Well, we have not much more to offer here for this season on the 9 Years podcast. We thank you everyone for listening to the show this year. Very much appreciated it, and all your nice comments that we get given to us online and in person. So thank you. Glad you're sticking with us and have enjoyed what we do. Stu, an abiding memory of this season, aside from Jersey Boys and Ron Law, abiding memory for me, you mentioned there about supporters and 28,000 to Wembley and the position that we are in as a club, growing since we've returned home to Wimbledon. And I just, when you said about 28,000 at Wembley, I thought to myself, 2,000 at Sandhurst Town, 2002. And you think how far we have come since then. And it was a thought that it did strike me in the post-match celebrations when I saw Trev on the pitch. And I just thought there's a story there that we're not going to, Trev will hate us if we were to go into depth on it. But I think there's a story there of the club has started to come out with this motto of, you know, the themes, the values of our club and resilience and togetherness. And I think it's embodied in said individual. And I thought it was another fantastic moment for him. It was a fantastic moment to see him on the pitch enjoying the celebrations, but not that he would take any credit for anything he's ever done. But if it wasn't for him in 2002, I doubt we're here where we are today. He doesn't seek the limelight. would never dream of such, but I think it's somebody that needs to be given that shout out.
It does, and obviously, obviously doing the stadium tours and that, and being tunnel, I see a lot of work that Trev does, and Rocket. Two great people. I class them as good mates, getting really well with them. I actually was really pleased to see Rocket in amongst all those celebrations.
Yeah.
He looked to me, it goes like he's a fan. He goes back to being a fan again. And I love that. I also know how much Johnny and that value Trev, Rocket, and Lindsay, who's been joined us recently. I know how much they value them as part of the team, and that's behind the scenes. That's what it is. That's what it is. They are very much. And whenever I go in there, you can't help. You'd be amazed how much that connection from the old combined counties.
Yeah.
It goes the whole way through. They are so well respected because they've always been there. Always been there. Do you know what I mean? And I know Trev won't forgive me for saying, but I know Trev was forced to go on the pitch by a certain player. Because you're right, Trevor would never seek the limelight. But I was really pleased with them, and it's a reward for all their travel. And I know one thing, that there won't be as much travel apparently next year because the league is not as northern.
No, this is true.
I've seen some of the journeys that they've had to do, but yeah, no, you're right. And there is, I think it's really important that we keep that constant, across many parts of the club. We don't forget where we come from.
On that note, one final person to address is Will Nightingale. We were recording this day before his testimonial. Nice little feature on him on BBC London in the week. Tremendous. Will has been tremendous for the football club, and I think it's easy to forget what he did for us in his time playing for us. I think people do have fairly short memories as well. I think it was such a symbolic moment that he was the first player to score at Plough Lane. I'm sorry for COVID behind closed doors games that were played there. None of those count. The first one was Bolton. He was the first player to score a goal, as far as I'm concerned, at Plough Lane, assisted by Anthony Hartigan as well. I think that was hugely symbolic. A tremendous, I know, sort of towards his later years, in that he was viewed as the poster child of AFC Wimbledon, the poster boy of AFC Wimbledon. But I think he was tremendous. What's the word I'm looking for, Stu? Representative.
Ambassador.
There we go. For our club, and a fully deserved testimonial at Plough Lane, and we wish him all the best in whatever his next steps are.
Yeah, I'll just say, if you can get out, obviously, it's a celebration as well of Will's career. Even though, let's be fair, he's only 29. I don't
think his career's over by any stretch. But
no, but normally we get testimonials. You sort of tend to think they're on their way out.
Yeah.
Because he's been with us for so long. He's still only 29, and obviously, a really good lineup. When you think back with Will, he was our second pro to come from our academy team under AFC Wimbledon.
Right.
Can you think of who the first one was? To give you a little bit, who was the first pro to come out of our academy into our first team?
How long have I got?
You can always, you can edit this, so you can just literally
could do that, couldn't I?
The 10-minute gap will just become half a minute.
Who beat him? Who was ahead of him?
It would have been League Two, so he would have been pro. Would have been League Two, and I'll give you a clue, was a winger, and might still be in the game.
Do you know that's going to bug the life out of me?
Do you want me to tell
you? Yes.
Brendan Kiernan.
Yeah, I'd never got
there. He was the first pro. Will was the second pro.
Wow, Brendan
Wimbledon team. So he started let's be fair, the talent has come through our academy team. We've got one, Jack Radoni, who looks like he might be going to a Premier League club. So it's going to be great. You got Neil Ardley, Simon Bassey, Mark Robinson, and Wally Downs managing. I did have a conversation with Robbo earlier. I'm doing some stuff pre-match, and he said he's not coming unless he gets Herbasal in his team. It's going to be, do you know what? There's so many players, and you can always tell by how well a player is liked and respected by the people that will come. Let's be fair, it's summer, but people will be working their holidays around, because I think a lot of people want to, give them a good testimonials. Don't happen that much. This is the first one under the AFC Wimbledon. Yeah. And I think the last one under Wimbledon was a Alan Cork testimonial. I'm sure they won't be doing Moonies and getting fined. So what did I see? I saw an interview with some player who said they got a £750 bonus for the FA Cup final, and then they lost that in fines for the Alan Cork testimonial. What can't be? It's a story. I think it's Under the Cosh, which is a brilliant, really brilliant podcast. It might be Keith Curl. Would Keith Curl been in that? No, it was someone. It basically was someone who said that they got a win bonus and then lost it in fines for moving back then. But yeah, there's a great lineup. Paul Robinson, Jake Reeves, the trophy will be there as well. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's a great way to finish the season, and I think the sunshine will be out. And you can pay on it, so you can buy tickets online now, but you can also pay on the gate.
Cash? I'm asking too much there, aren't I? Never mind. Oh, I had to get one last moan in for the podcast during the season. Anyway, right. Stu, that is it. That is it, I believe, for the season. So once again, thank you very much for joining me.
No problem at all.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Enjoy the summer. Enjoy all the preparations. We might have a few things lined up here on the podcast as well, so keep your eyes peeled on that one, 9yrespodcast.org. We are on all social media as well, but especially Nazi Twitter at 9yrespodcast. Big thanks to Chris as well, of course, for all his work on the Twitter machine throughout the season.
I saw him at Wembley with the big rat. I'm not too sure it was a rat.
I wasn't sure which one was which.
Yeah, it was just lovely to see him. Thing is, Hayden looks so small at Wembley. When the last picture I saw of him was when he was about a 50-foot tall above Wembley in some poster.
Yes.
Which totally scared my son, Thomas.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He thought it was
Godzilla-esque.
Yeah. But, thanks, Chris, for all your hard work. And, we start again very soon. Don't have too much of a summer.
No, we go again, I believe is the phrase. Anyway, Stu, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, 2 + 2 continues to equal 4. Experiment with a smashed mango curry in the summer, and we shall speak to you again as a third tier team next season.